Welcome to the final video in our three-part series on creative financing. In the first series, we talked about what is creative financing and how does it work, and basically broke it down and made it super simple. The next series of video, we talked about explaining creative financing terms and showed you the three different basic techniques to take down a creative financing deal. And now we're at the meat and the potatoes. The third part of the series is how to talk to a seller and how to present a creative financing offer to them. So guys, if you love videos like this and you love how I get to break down my 21 years of experience, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so other people can find this video just like you. So you guys know I love wholesaling and that is my passion and I love it. But I do love creative financing, and there's not always one way to take down a property. And as you advance as a real estate investor, you'll learn the techniques. I will promise you, if you don't understand how to do wholesaling, in my opinion, a lot of these other strategies become difficult, because wholesaling, you have to learn to be very resourceful. You have to be an amazing marketer. Once you get those skill sets down, now you're just making slight adjustments and you're educating yourself on different options you can use to help your sellers out so you can maximize your income. Remember, the more value you bring to people, the more money you make, and honestly, the better you feel. So today we're going to talk about all on how to talk to sellers. And like, okay, I understand the theory, Rick. I understand the three different types of basic creative financing offer structures. So like when I meet with the seller, like what's the next step? Number one, just for God's sakes, be yourself. Stop trying to mimic other people out there. Authenticity is often overlooked. And so I'm going to give you some basic rules. And a lot of these I teach over in my wholesaling. If you want to learn the basics on how to connect with people, go over to freewholesaling.com. But the first thing you've got to understand is you have to learn how to be authentic. And all this means is you have to be you. You can't be Rick. You can't be Zach. Just be yourself. The more natural the conversation, the better it goes. You see, so many people think real estate's about these slick talking people and forcing people to take action. I believe in the opposite. I believe in just talking to people, listening very carefully, and structuring an offer that caters, that solves their problem. So if you understand that, authenticity is everything. If you come in and you want to wear a jacket and you want to command respect and all that stuff, you're not getting the point. See, a lot of people teach the real estate businesses, you want to be like the superpower, the authority, everything. I teach you want to look eye to eye to your sellers, because that's how you connect with people. Think about this. Say you need to get a new roof on your house, and say your good buddy is a roofer. Who are you going to call first? You're going to call your buddy. Why? Because you have established trust, you get well with them, and you know they will do you right. That's the same thing you're trying to do here. If you're not authentic, you cannot accomplish this. You have to be authentically yourself. The next one, you got to be a good listener. Honestly, in creative financing, it is more important than ever. God gave you 2 ears and one mouth. Use it. The more your sellers talk to you, the more data you can get to craft a solution to actually solve their problem. You see, if you do most of the talking, it means you're not listening. If you're not listening, you really can't help out sellers. So honestly, God just basically reminded us with 2 ears and one mouth, use the 80-20 rule. You do 20% of talking, 80% is them telling you what their issues are, what they want to solve. The more you can do it, the more you can custom cater your creative financing solution to actually benefit the seller while it benefits you. And that's about being a problem solver. If you can't be a problem solver, you're not going to work in creative financing. You have to solve a problem. If you can't solve a problem, you're not going to get paid. You can't just cookie cut everyone. Every one of these situations are different. I wish they were all the same, but it's not that easy. People are complicated. Remember, real estate is just a symptom of the human solution. So real estate's just the math. So just like in wholesaling and creative financing, you can do the math, and there's plenty of aids, there's plenty of people to help you out. Your main job in creative financing and wholesaling is to connect with your seller at a level and create a massive amount of trust and rapport, and then truly cater to them. Think about when your wife, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt have a true problem, and you sit down and you try to help them out, and you carefully look them in the eye and just listen to their problem for 20 minutes. That's what I need from you in creative financing. That is your highest and best skill set. You can hire all the people in the world to do the paperwork and the math, but if you do not get this part right, you'll struggle in wholesaling, and it'll be even harder in creative financing. You have to be a problem solver. So here's what you've got to understand. This is like the meat and potatoes here, and I'm going to put this in red ink. You have to find out what your seller truly wants. A lot of you think it's just price. Oh, if I hit their target price, and yes, that's important to a lot of people in creative financing, but that's not it. You actually have to, what I call, scratch the seller's itch. You ever had that terrible itch? You just can't like reach on your back? And then I have it all the time because I got a bum shoulder and my wife will come out and scratch it. And it's like the greatest feeling in the world. That's what you have to accomplish with your sellers. You see, I'm always going to go after the target price to create a win-win situation. But in the end, sometimes they're like, hey, can you help me with a moving truck? Can you help me relocate my dog? Can you help with my my litter of cats? Can you do this? And honestly, if you understand what they truly want to achieve, some people are animal lovers and they go, hey, I want a place that's going to have a yard so I can put my dog and all this and like my entire passion. I actually have a charity with stuff like this. Once you find this stuff, it is your gateway to truly scratch the seller's itch. And if you can find that itch, these deals go down real smooth. If you just do price and you don't find the itch, it can get wanky on you, meaning they're not completely bought in. When you find out what people's true passions or dreams are, what's like really creating anxiety for them, and you solve it and you scratch that itch, creative financing is a lot of fun. I've had multiple examples where I've just helped people scratch that itch. Remember, you have to find your seller's itch. It is more imperative in creative financing even than wholesaling, because wholesaling, it's usually a financial itch you're getting. Let's be honest, because you're asking for deep discounts and basically they're getting speed and convenience in exchange. Creative financing, they always want a target price. I never overlook that, but there's usually one more step. And the only way you're going to do it is become an active listener and truly lean in. Think when your family members had a massive problem. You just don't sit there and run. You just, like when you have a problem, if someone will just sit down and listen to you for 15 minutes, it just changes like your entire demeanor. And that's what usually happens. Honestly, guys, I've gone on hours on conversations with people. There are no rules, whatever gets the deal done, because at the end of the day, we're all going to be human. So you have to understand the fundamentals of how these conversations go. Remember, at this point, the realtor didn't scratch it. The wholesaler didn't do it. The FSBO didn't do it. But guess what? The creative finance person can easily do it. Why? They're flexible. They're authentic. They're great listeners and they want to solve a problem. If you can do all that stuff, it's a lot of fun. Just remember the mechanics of talking to people. If you're robotic, you're not authentic, they're not going to want to do business with you. And you have to understand that. And here's the last bit on this piece. A lot of times what you think the seller wants, you have no idea outside of price. I tell you this truth in wholesaling is the same thing in creative financing. The best way to find out what the seller's itch is, just ask them. What do you want to solve by selling this property? Just ask them dead blank and let them go into it. And they're going to go on a long tangent. And that's what you want because you're trying to expose the motion and you're trying to satisfy their need to get this transaction done. And at this point, you're usually the best person to solve it because everybody else has tried and they all have a one size all fits situation. And that obviously hasn't worked at this point. So take these clues and move forward. So now let's talk particularly about each of the three types of strategies and how to have that conversation. So real quick, subject 2, you either have somebody that has low equity or they just need to go somewhere quick. Sometimes they're in a hurry to leave, or maybe they just don't care. And these people have like, they have trust is not an issue with them because they're already open to you taking over the mortgage. Now, one of my favorite subject 2 ways, and I'm going to put this in green because it's the greatest, are probates. Why? Because when a person passes away and there's a mortgage, think about this. What's the risk of taking over the mortgage subject 2? There is none because the debt is in the deceased's name. Why I love this so much? If you guys want to do a lot of subject 2s, go after probates because you can instantly offer them a solution. What if I just take over the mortgage and I give you X amount of dollars? Is that a situation you're open to? It's that simple. What's the downside? What if you don't make a payment on the mortgage? Who are they going to foreclose on? You. Are they going to go after the debtor? The debtor's deceased. Listen, dead man can't come back and pull it out. I know that's a little bit morbid, but it is the truth. My number one subject 2 method is probates. Now, some people don't want to do it and I don't make them do it, but I simply say, are you open to a creative solution? They're like, what do you mean? Well, there's a $100,000 mortgage on the property. The property is worth roughly around $200,000. I got to do a bunch of work on it and do that. What if we structured a deal where I took over the mortgage and then you can either write a second mortgage and give them a chunk of money, or you can give them a chunk of money up front. Keep in mind, this satisfies your hard money issue. You can use the sellers to finance that for you. There's so many options. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. Now, when it comes to anybody in pre-foreclosure, I'm going to give you this forewarning. Catch them early. The earlier, the better. Because if they get too far behind in payments, the amount of money due is just insurmountable and it's very hard to make it work. I like to catch them sooner than later, but make sure you have proper cash flow on it. Not all deals in pre-foreclosure work out for a great subject to. And then when I deal with a person who's just in a hurry to kind of leave the country, I go, listen, you can take over my mortgage payment. This is the best fit. I love those people. And I simply, when I go through it, most of the time, all I do is say, listen, are you open to a creative solution? Now, if the answer is, tell me more about it, that means they're interested and they want to talk about it. If they do a hard no, just avoid this. It's not going to work. So I love subject twos. They're actually really simple. Just remember about the length of the mortgage. Try to take over the entire balance of the length of the mortgage. And at worst, structure at least 60 months because it gives you room, especially if you're new to creative financing. Time is your friend, not your enemy. Executory contracts. And then remember, this is the creative solution where basically you now are establishing trust. So when you start talking numbers and go over it and they're like, I'm not going to do it, say they don't want to do a subject to with you. They don't want to write you a private mortgage. And like, well, how can I do this deal and protect my interest and give you what you want while I get my price? I simply say like this, what if I could show you a technique where we can legally do our deal? Basically, you hold on to the deed till I live up to my entire end of the obligation. If I don't live up to it, you keep the deed. And that's my penalty for the expenses doing it. But once I fulfill it, we exchange the deed in exchange for control of the property. That will satisfy your HOA lien. That'll satisfy your due on sale clause. It satisfies a lot of things and we can keep it private. We don't need permission from the bank. And this is the best way to take it down if you want to go ahead and do this. So you have to take baby steps when you do it. Most of you overpresent. And most of the time in these conversations, I'll simply say, are you open to a creative solution? And if they lean in and ask or they resist, we'll tell you the direction it's going to go. You cannot make someone do a creative financing deal. So executive contracts are a little bit complicated to the average person. So the simpler you break it down, and here's how I say it too. This is my favorite way as well. Mr. Seller, what if I create arrangements where I make you monthly payments in exchange for control of the property, meaning I can do what I need to do with it, and to protect your interest to make sure I live up to my end of the bargain, you hold on to the deed and the deed will sit in escrow and a third party at the title company or a lawyer of your choice. And then once I fulfill all those payments, the deed automatically reverts to me. You get exactly what you want. I get what I want. And it's going to make us both live up to our end of the agreement. That's simply an executory contract. Now, I'm going to forewarn you. This is why I'm not giving you paperwork in this video. You need to work with your title company and a real estate lawyer within that state, especially an executory contract, because you have to perfect it. If you don't, you do run some risks on it and it gets very complicated, but you have bankruptcy risk and you got to make sure the insurance is correct to protect both parties. And you want these contracts to survive in court. If you don't take the paperwork seriously and you don't do everything perfectly, you run the risk of the contract not being enforceable. And that is the downside of executory contracts. So the seller gets their price, you get control of the property, and they get security in holding on the deed till you live up your end of the bargain. These deals go down very fast. And honestly, they don't even require a title company. No title company. Now, I'm still going to have you run the title, but you don't need a title company to close it. Once again, get a lawyer, because if you can get a lawyer once, they can give you a basic template for that state, write it up. And then when you go to the second and third and fourth one, you can just pay them a fee to put that together, or you can run it with your title company and put it together. Make sure if it has to be notarized, everything's done properly. And then make sure you actually have someone to set the deed in escrow, because I don't let the seller hold on to it. They actually have to give it to a third party because they have to live up to their end of the obligation if the seller were to pass away or anything like that. And by the way, that's why you use a lawyer, so it's all spelled out to protect you in the case of the worst event. If the seller passes away and the deed's sitting in their safe, how are you ever going to get it? Then you got to go through a long court process. So make sure you follow the contract to a T. Executory contracts are amazing. Remember, every state has a different name from it, from land contract to installment payments, leases and lease options, land contracts, contract for deed. This is what an executory contract, most people confuse the heck out of this. So last but not least is going to be the owner financing. And I already kind of went over this, but let's just give a basic presentation. And it simply goes like this. Most of them wind up being landlords, and you're trying to switch them over to be the bank, right? So let's talk about what the bank gets. The bank gets security, pretty much get passive income. I know there's work servicing the debt, but it's passive income. They get market certainty. They get a note, and they get what I call the drama-free zone. What does a landlord get? Tenants. What do tenants give you? Headaches. Sorry, guys, truth. I'm one of them too. They give you repairs. They give you vacancy. They can give you zero cash flow, and you get market uncertainty. Oh, also on this, we talked about security, but they get a guarantee, a personal guarantee. Let me ask you, which side of the equation do you want to be on? This is really not hard to present. So all you're trying to say, listen, Mr. Seller, I get it. You want X amount of price. I can give you X amount of price. In return, what I want to do is show you how you can actually make a similar cash flow and get all the benefits of the bank. I go everything through the right-hand corner. What if I could show you absolute security? We record a mortgage, you get a note. I personally guarantee it. You're going to get market certainty, you get passive income, you'll get a note. And by the way, they can sell the note and actually exchange it for money. You get tax deferment, you get drama-free zone, and honestly, you don't have to do the repairs and you can go enjoy your life. How does that sound for you? And it's usually very attractive. Now, I'm going to save the best part for the last. So most of you always talk about how you're going to structure a deal with someone. So remember, as a wholesaler, I taught you to be the most resourceful person. We're going to take that skill set, we're going to transfer it over to creative financing. So resourceful means doing stuff with little to no money. If we have resources, let's do this. Everybody understands how resources work, right? It means you utilize resources. They can be paid, they can be data, they can be services, they can be specialized negotiators and all that. Those are resources. But the reality is a lot of new people that get into real estate investing, especially wholesaling, is we don't have a lot of resources because we're broke. It's just the truth. Let's say it. We're broke. And we got into wholesaling to fix this problem. Why? Because we want to make a lot of money and minimize risk. How can I take that skill set and transfer from wholesaling to creative finance? It's already built in. This is the beauty. I don't have to train you. A lot of creative financiers who get into that only first, they never got the resourcefulness exercise. And God knows you're going to get it in wholesaling. You have to or you won't survive. How you have to be an incredible marketer, and you got to be resourceful. I teach you to use the go for no method. I teach you how not to take a no when you go to get your government list. So let's bring it over here. What am I saying is you have to churn this and you have to be resourceful. I don't even know how to spell it, but it is what it is. Resourceful, meaning you have to go with inside you and get super creative to find things to think outside the box. So you're in creative financing, right? So resourceful is really kind of the same thing of creative. So I find a lot of people getting creative financing that didn't go through wholesaling, they don't get this part. And this is the really cool part. When you come up the turn, so when I'm talking, let's say we're talking about owner financing or an executory contract. They go, okay, well, here's what the typical seller goes, how are the payments going to be structured? Right? So if you're not resourceful, you're typically going to go like this. Well, we'll do a amortization and right, which is a bank's calculation, and we'll do X amount of interest rate, and we'll do it for X amount of years. So here's what I want to do real quick. Also, I want to give you a little bit of bonus here. I'm going to show you how to do AI. If you want to go this method, which is not being resourceful at all, but sometimes it is required to do. Let me show you how to do it so you get an idea. So what I'd usually have to go to a lawyer or a finance person to figure this out is I'm just going to put in here. So say create a payment plan for $400,000 home at 4% over 30 years. What's the payments? So remember, in AI, you've got to be very direct. It's not about being polite. You can just use AI to calculate it. Now, you can do this on your phone. You can plug it in there. And so if you look at this right here, it comes up with 1910. So you show amortization schedule for this. And you can keep asking questions, and hopefully it'll break it down for you. Guys, long before I had to use these specialized calculators and everything else, and it'll give you even more of a breakdown. Now, guys, is this resourceful? Yes, but it's you're not thinking outside the box. So let me show you how to do this. So now you know how to do it and use AI to calculate anything. And you can do this on your phone. You can actually do this while you're sitting in front of the seller. Although I don't like to do that. I like to concentrate on connecting with them. So that's it. So I just kind of showed you how you can use this And honestly, I'm going to use AI to create what we call traditional resources. But I know you're better than that. So I want to teach you how to be out of the box thinking. Guys, they don't call it creative financing for nothing. So if you don't take that advantage. So let's just say, so this payment came around $19.10 a month for the next 30 years. And you're going to pay still 4% interest rate was really cheap. And this is over 30. Well, we already got that on there. So let's think outside the box. So say I had let's just say it's a $400,000 deal. Now, if the seller is getting the price they want, what do you have to get? You have to get the terms you want. And remember, this has to go hand in hand. It has to work. If it's lopsided, it's not going to work. Think back to our seesaw effect. Now, what if I did this? What if I pay you the $400,000 and I spread it over 30 years? That comes to $1,111.11 per month. But Rick, this says $19.10. How can you get away with that? Because I'm not a bank. I do not operate in the rules of the bank. And if me and the seller agree to this, it works out fine. But the seller goes, wait a minute, Rick. I'm okay with the $1,100 on that. He goes, can you give me $10K? Can you give me $15K up front? That's fine. So let's talk about a down payment of $10,000. And he goes, can we at least keep the payment to $1,100 a month? I'm like, okay, that's fine. So this is how you work with people and you think outside the box. Remember, his or her minimum requirements are, I'm trying to scratch their itch. And a lot of times I go, listen, Rick, I want the $1,100 a month because that pays for my hunting lodge club. And that brings me the most serenity. I go, I get it. Mr. Seller, I'm going to scratch your itch. So I'll give you $1,100 a month. Remember, we're not even talking about interest rates, 10 grand down. So even if I ran these numbers, this might go down to 1875 with the 10 grand down, not a lot of savings, still $1,100 a month. But then he goes, listen, 30 years. He goes, Rick, you lost your mind. I'm not waiting 30 years. He goes, I'm 74 years old. Awesome. What if we did this? What if we spread this payment? We keep everything just the way we have it agreed here, but you don't have to wait 30 years. What if I did 30 years and then I just did that in 10 years? Will that work for you, Mr. Seller? Yeah, you know what? I think I can do 10 years. Okay. So here's how it looks. We structure the $1,100 a month, $10,000, and in 10 years, you get what we call a balloon payment. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh, heck, Rick, how am I going to come up with that in 10 years? Here's the really cool part, because you're not paying interest. You've thought outside the box. If you paid $1,100, that comes to like $13,300 a year times 10. You'll pay off 133 grand. So in 400,000 minus 133, do some quick math here, 0.007. Oh my God, school paid off for something. 6, you're going to owe 367. You can either refinance, you can cash out, meaning sell it, or you can restructure. Stop being the person that only thinks here. I need you guys to come over to this side. Everything's open. I have a lot of deals from trailer parks and stuff like that where I just ask them, what do you want? They go, I started out doing mobile homes like this. They go, give me 20 grand. I go, that's fine. Can we stretch the payments over 30 years? They're like, are you crazy? I'll do it over 10. You see, I say 30. So when they say 10, I'm fine with 10 because I tell you guys the minimum is 5 years. And then sometimes they go, hey, I want an interest rate and I wanted a regular amortization. And that's where you guys can use AI to do it. And that's where it works really well. But like, start thinking outside the box. Remember, I'm ultimately going to do what? I'm going to give you your price, the seller, but we both have to work together to get what we want. And I have to get my terms. I'm going to give you what you want. I get what I want. And that's how you win ultimately in creative financing. Remember, everything's about a win-win. Win-win. If you don't have a win-win, it doesn't work in my opinion. Remember, most of these conversations with sellers, they're much longer. They're non-confrontational. We do not argue. Like a lot of you guys in wholesaling, you get combative, and that's no way to get a deal. It's the same thing in creative financing. It's more dominant. And you got to understand there can be absolutely no pressure from either side. Both parties have to come together and want to work together to create a solution. And guys, talking to these sellers is simple. Go back to the 3 simple techniques. And by the way, there's much more advanced strategies. They go like way deeper in this. But just like wholesaling, you got to learn the fundamentals. You have 3 ways to take down a property for the basic fundamentals. Yes, you can involve bank financing and stuff, but there are some risks. There's disclosures. I don't want to get into all that. I want you to employ these 3 techniques in your wholesaling business. So when you find a deal, you can easily identify it And guys, if you need more help, make sure you connect with me and Zach online. We go live multiple times a week. We have a Flip with Rick Plus where you help people out 4 times a week. There should be nothing stopping you from getting what you truly want in life. I love creative financing. I think it's absolutely amazing. Take creative financing on top of your wholesaling skill set, and you are an amazing real estate investor. And guys, if you can put them both together, it means you can solve more people's problems. And remember, the more problems you solve, the more money you make. Guys, let me know what you think about this theories. Remember, I'm just explaining the basics to you so you understand it. But once again, I am a huge advocate of having an amazing conversations with people. And what I love about creative financing is it just gives you a broader range to help people out. And remember, your job is to be the art of the conversationalist, to be that great listener, to be the authentic you, and take that information and assess a solution and cater it to your sellers so you can craft a solution that creates a win-win, and then you can make a ton of money. Your seller's price gets met, and most importantly, the seller's itch gets scratched. Once that itch gets scratched, it is endless. And here's the crazy part. When you start doing this, in the beginning, it's a little bit mechanical because you're new to it. Think about what you did with wholesaling. But as you adapt and as you progress and get experienced, there's no stopping you what you can do. You can take these deals down up to $100 million deals, down to $5,000 little tiny houses and trailers. There is no limit in what you can do. Now you don't have the rules to the banks. Welcome to creative financing, one of my favorite ways to do it. Make sure you employ this strategy with your wholesaling. And guys, let me know in the comments which of the methods you're going to do. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. Remember, this is the fundamentals of creative financing. Open your world up to it. You have more skill sets than just a wholesaler. I believe in you. Put these two businesses together and you will explode your business. So guys, if you got value from this video right here and the 3 series, do me a favor. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone you think that would get value from it. Remember, I want to help as many investors as I can possible. Make sure you go over to freewholesaling.com to learn how to get started in wholesaling absolutely for free. And make sure you review this 3-part series on creative financing so you can be the best version of a real estate investor and employ your wholesaling and your creative financing. This is Rick Ginn, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. See you guys.